Oh, here we are. It says
It's the real
live
deal.
recording. It is the real deal. That
Wait, is
is
that
great.
live? I thought it was live. I thought it was a
Well,
suggestion.
it's it's a little bit of both because if we aren't living, this becomes very boring.
It's a different show at that
Right.
point.
If the show's just dead.
Oh gosh.
So okay, so this is a live test for, I mean, the Pedal Stomper production stuff. That's why this is going out on my personal YouTube thing, and obviously on my personal Facebook. But we're gonna get some recordings out of this. With me is Coach Lucas Woody. Wave to everyone. Say hi to the people.
Hello, people not watching.
Correct. All both of them. It's, with this, we're doing this as a test to try and, I mean, we're going to do a live program. A big part of it is we want to make sure that we're able to launch something that's effective, that we're both going to get content out of. Not to mention, we tend to have a good time when
Mm,
we talk together,
that's
as
true.
evidenced by the 20 minutes that we were laughing hysterically before I clicked the button that says
Yeah, we
live.
were shooting for a 3 o'clock start, and here we are. But
Yeah, no, I
honestly, we solved all the problems in that 20 minutes. So now we just get to have fun.
correct. um, One of those problems. What excellent segue, by the way. Thank you for
Oh,
that.
hey, you know what? I'm here for you.
Is the excellent segue on that is the stuck high achiever. That is
Mm,
someone that you work with.
mhm.
That is someone that, I mean, describe that person.
Yeah, I love that. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Stuck and stressed, high achievers. Those are the people I typically share that I work with. And a lot of times people are like, well, who would ever say they're high achievers? Ironically enough, most of my clients say, like, I've even had my clients ask me, do you really think I'm a high achiever? Right. So humility is huge for me. I appreciate that in a high achiever. High achievers to me are not outcome based, or at least not the ones that I want to work with. They're the individuals who have a mindset that what they do is good. They're focused on achieving at a high level, and they know that they are continuing to want to get better. So I first want to kind of have that caveat because a lot of people hear high achievers are like, oh, well, what have they done? Well, I've worked with high achievers that are 19 and haven't done anything tremendous with their life, but I know they're high achievers. They're getting up early. They're
I get
staying
it.
up late. They're striving to find out how do they serve people. A client that or a mentee, I should say, that I worked with just yesterday. I mean, he is over the moon trying to figure out what is his purpose in life and how does he serve people and what does he want to do with his life. Like that to me is a high achiever. He's writing his eulogy for his life at 19 years old because he cares about what he wants to accomplish in his life. Like that to me is a high achiever. I love that, right? And so the first step is just describing what a high achiever really is, and I think that is a big part to play. And they obviously aren't settling. They're not just saying, "Well, I did a thing and I'm done." And so growth mindedness is a huge aspect of it. But then once you look at that, you talk about like you talked about this stuck idea, right? I think one of the biggest problems that high achievers struggle with is they build their entire identity, which is a whole problem in itself. But they build their identity on this idea of doing more, right? I'm going to do more and then I'll get more. And then I'll do more and then I'll get more. And then I'll do more and then they don't get any more. And so they find that, their plate is full, but they are still trying to add to it. So that's typically where I see my clients getting stuck, especially in later on in life. And so when I say stuck, it's this place that they find themselves where they are struggling to understand how they're going to continue to find success in life with the same tools and beliefs that they had previously. The same things that got them to where they are not going to get them to where they want to go. And the two places that those typically that I want to work with my clients on, if they just want more money, I'm just not the guy for that. There are people for that. They're good. But the two things I really want to get them unstuck towards is a fulfilling life and doing meaningful work. Those are really the two places that once we get unstuck, first step is getting unstuck. The second step is finding direction towards that fulfilling work, that fulfilling life, and that meaningful work.
It's funny you say that. That points to something. There was a quote from Jimmy Carr that I absolutely love, and the guy's a comedian, but
Oh, love him.
brilliant guy.
No,
Brilliant
sure.
guy. He goes, "Show me a trust fund child, and I will show you a tormented soul." And he says, because they have all the stuff. And he goes, it's not the pursuit of happiness. It's the happiness is in the pursuit.
Yes.
And so many people just get pursuit after pursuit after pursuit because what's success? What have they defined it as? And that's where so many of us get stuck. It's just we have to keep pushing for more and more and more, not realizing that what we're doing, it's that journey is where we should be enjoying the things rather than just trying to be like, look, I've arrived. Because once you've arrived, you're like, great. I mean, most vacations, people remember the time in the car almost as well as they remember like the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon was cool. We got here. We were here for like 2 or 3 hours. You were in the car for like a week ahead of time, singing songs, laughing, swearing at each other, trying not to throw each other out at highway speeds. So that it's funny. A lot of people don't realize that that's where they get stuck. I love that.
Sure.
It's interesting. You mentioned the serving people. We've both talked, both big fans of servant leadership. How would you like define servant leadership?
Yeah, I like that. I think a lot of people claim to be servant leaders, and I don't mean that in like, I don't think that they are, but I do think they have a problem with this very thing, which is identifying what that means. And so I don't typically, when I'm working with my clients, I don't segregate work and not work, right? The people that I work with, their work is a means by which they live a fulfilling life. That is just one of the avenues, right? I have a model for well-being, and one of the aspects is vocational, but then the other is spiritual, right? Spiritual to me is not necessarily a belief in a deity, but a belief in something larger than yourself. Some people think that's a deity. Some people believe that's karma. Some people believe that's just other humans, right? And so my thought is, okay, instead of separating church and state, why don't we blend the two? Can I do something with my life? And when I say vocational, I don't mean a job. I mean what I do with my time, because my wife doesn't currently work for someone else to make money. But I would say that she has one of the hardest jobs in the world, which is creating a human that is going to contribute meaningfully to society, who is emotionally sound, who, is loving and caring and all of those things. And he's an only child, so that comes with challenges in and of itself, right? So vocational to me,
He's getting all the attention.
all of it from me too, which I feel so bad for. But the vocational to me isn't what I do for money, right? Vocational to me is what do I do with my time. Mother Teresa wasn't in it for the money, but I would bet that most people would agree she had a wonderful calling. And so can I make my vocation align with my spiritual aspect, which also aligns with my social aspect? And I promise I'm getting to a point here. So when I think of servant leadership, when I think of servant leadership, it's really a matter of being servant-hearted. That's how I describe my clients: servant-hearted, growth-minded, high achievers. Those are the three categories that I look for when I'm looking for someone to work with, because I know that the work that I do is going to help them better the world, right? And so when I think of servant leadership, I really think of servant-hearted, because when you're servant-hearted, it doesn't matter if it's your son, it doesn't matter if it's your wife, it doesn't matter if it's your team, it doesn't matter even if it's your boss, right? I don't lead my boss, but I can be servant-hearted to my boss. I can be servant-hearted to the people at Starbucks, right? And so to me, it's about being servant-hearted. And what that means is you're willing to recognize the needs of someone else, and to the best of your ability, fulfill those needs with the resources that you have available to you, right? I'll give you one of the silliest. This is very personal, okay? So I'm about to explain to a live audience of 0 one of the ways that I'm servant-hearted, okay? And I don't like sharing this because it's like the weirdest, I don't know, humble brag, I don't know what it is, right? But you and I are both men, right?
Correct.
So you and I both understand the social norms that are the urinal situation in a bathroom, right?
Correct.
Like if I gave you a diagram and said, there's a guy at this urinal, and you'd have to, all the social norms, right? You know all of them. When I'm in the bathroom and I'm at a urinal and I happen to walk up and stand next to somebody else because there's no other spots available, right?
Correct.
Or they walk up next to me, I know because I've experienced it as a younger man that kidney shy is a thing, right? You're in a
Correct.
public space, you're next
get
to
it.
somebody in a vulnerable situation. Sometimes it's hard. I will aim at the water so that it makes a sound, and that sound helps elicit.
I do the same thing. No, this is a guy thing. I love this.
Yes, right? I don't know. I'm guessing servant-hearted people think this way. I don't know how many people think this way because I've never actually shared that with anybody ever, not even my wife. So there you go. But to me, I have a resource. I see a need that somebody else has, and whether or not they want that or not, right? I'm willing to help them out. It's not hurting them. That's a big part of being a servant-minded human being, right? It's not hurting them. It's helping them, and it's doing it in a way that benefits them without detracting. I think there's a piece of them wanting it or asking for it. In that situation, maybe they didn't ask for it, but it's definitely, at the very least, it's not hurting them, right?
I agree.
It's not detract. So I think that's a big part of what servant leadership really means. The servant leadership part, I think it gets a lot of attention because it's where we can put money into it, right? Like being a leader is something that you can put money behind and you can do training for it. And so let's talk all about it. I just believe in being servant hearted and then how you apply that, whether that's in leadership or in parenthood or in your church or in whatever class of society you find yourself in. I think that's what matters.
It's funny, your story there. First off, like I said, I do the same thing.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I'm not even the only person in the room, let alone in the world.
No, as loud as I can make that, I'm going to, just to be like, if nothing else, yes. And I appreciate when other people do it.
Yeah.
So, but what's so interesting about that is, the point that you kind of finished on about like people talking about servant leadership and how it's marketable and how they can talk about it and all these other things. I see, like, I was just talking with someone a few days ago about something came out in their company that a number of them were possibly looking for jobs. And so they draw this meeting and everyone's told it is a safe space. And I thought, as soon as they said that, I'm like, you just did the exact opposite of what you wanted to do. Because if it was actually a safe space, if you were actually a servant leader, if you were out to help people, you wouldn't have to tell anyone. They would absolutely walk into there feeling like, yep, I am comfortable. I know I can say exactly what's on my mind. I know there won't be any ramifications other than what is deservedly so. There's not going to be any big blow-ups. It's just making sure that it is that servant leadership stuff. I was told that it was funny. Someone put it very simply to me is from a business aspect years ago, and they said, if you say, as a leader, you can say, here's what we need to do. How can I help? They're like, you cannot say the first one without the second one. If you say, just here's where we need to go, everyone's going to look at you like, okay. If you offer that support and then if they say, hey, we need your help with this, and then say, great, let's do it. Show your support, then by golly, people will do that. To me, the urinal story is one that I believe is going to live on in infamy for many years to come. And it's funny because I think this is something else. So many men can't talk about stuff like that. I feel as men, our jobs are to put into society more than we will ever get back. That is, as men, that is our jobs. Because if we do that, society benefits enough that it will raise all of us up. One way or another, it's going to come back to whether it's us, our children, whoever. we will get that back. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That being said, how does that
But
play? What do you? I'm skipping around in some of the stuff that I mapped out here. And
that's okay. I don't
this is
I
good.
don't remember any of what we talked about prior.
I know. Good. So I sent you. I didn't even send you all the list of stuff. I sent you a couple of topics.
I like I like the hooks. You always give a surprise curveball, and that's what keeps me on my toes.
Good. Yeah, I don't want to make this easy for you. I mean, this is if we're spending this time together, you should leave tired. Anyone that spends any amount of time with me usually leaves tired, whether it's from the amount of talking that I do, the speed at which I talk, or just the energy that I have, or just the litany of questions that I'm going to ask them. What do you see as the role of purpose in leadership?
I love that. With most situations, I always take one step back before I take two steps forward, if you haven't seen that theme yet. And so one of the first things I want to recognize in people, because people hear the word purpose and they get a little gooey or soft, or they roll their eyes, right? It's my favorite word, bar none. My favorite letter is P, because all the cool words start with P, right? Positivity, purpose, power,
Personable.
puffy, right? Like all the cool words, right? Puffy's just a fun one. And so like just performance, right? Productivity, preparedness, right? So purpose is a really important one for me. But when people hear it, they often get they either go the spiritual way, which is like my God-given purpose, which I have thoughts on that. And then they go oh God, here we go, everything's fate and blah, blah, blah. And so the first thing I want to help people understand is, no matter where you feel like it comes from, I do believe that everybody has the ability and the right to feel like they have a purpose, right? One of the scariest things about AI, in my opinion, isn't necessarily, there's also, I just read a book called Scary Smart by Mo Gaudet. I butchered his last name, but he was the former CEO of Google X. So he knows some stuff about tech, right? And the book is phenomenal in terms of what AI could do and where it could go. And there's all these different theories and conspiracies and all that kind of stuff, right? My biggest fear is that when AI gives us the capacity to be a lot more leisurely and not have to work so hard, people are not going to have a purpose. People are going to feel like their life is meaningless. What's the point, right? We have the same thing, just like you said, we have the same issue with trust fund babies because, and for all the trust fund babies, this isn't everybody, right? But if you don't have to work for things, if you don't feel like you're contributing, you don't have a purpose. You don't feel like you belong. You don't feel like you're of value to people. And that's important to us as a social species. And so that's the biggest thing that I'm focusing on with AI. That's the lane that I'm taking with AI. It's here. It's going to be here. It's going to do a lot of stuff for us. How can we make sure that we as humans still feel like we have a purpose? And so the first thing is just recognizing that purpose can come from anywhere, but what it ultimately means is that you feel like you have significance in your life, right? Arthur Brooks talks about it as significance, coherence, and meaning. Those are the three things to kind of give yourself purpose in life, right? So, or meaning is purpose, significance, and coherence. However you want to mix those flavors, it comes out with, there's a reason I'm here. And without that, nihilism comes, anxiety, depression, suicide. It's not pretty. And so I do believe everybody has the right to have a purpose. Whether or not you know what it is, if you know it, great. I love it because then it gives me direction. It gives me intentionality. It gives me the opportunity to recognize what I need to be doing with my life. This is one of the reasons why I got into this work, is because I started off in health and wellness, and people would be like, well, I want to lose 10 pounds and get in shape and get a six-pack abs or whatever, insert goal here. And I realized that a lot of the issues there were, it's good intentions. Physical health is great. But the question becomes, at what point is it enough? Right? At what point is your body enough? At what point is your deadlift enough? What point is your mile time enough? And they couldn't answer that question.
It never is.
And it never is unless you know what your body is meant to do for you. I know my purpose in life is to help others define their purpose and pursue it so they can live a fulfilling life and contribute meaningfully to the world. What do I need to be able to do that? Well, one, I probably got to look the part. So I can't be unhealthy, right? I have to have a good physical appearance. I have to be able to inspire other people through the actions that I take, right? I need to be able to have the energy to do this at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do all the other things that I want to do. I have to have mental clarity. I want to be able to live until I'm 80 or 90 and be able to do physical things. So that's how I know what enough looks like, when I know what that purpose is. And so that to me is the essence of why purpose is so important. And beyond that, I have no idea what your original question was. So what was the second half of that question?
I mean, and that's a great preface, because
Yeah.
what is the role of that in leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. So this comes back to when I'm working with my clients, some of my clients, they start like, I want to be a better leader. And I'm like, okay, great. Some of them start with, oh, I just lost my light. Very cool. And then some of them, it's I have a motion sensor light in my barn, so I'm gonna try to move a little bit and see if I can't kick it back on. Hey, there we go. We're gonna fix all that in editing. So the reason purpose is so important when you're a leader is because when you understand, I don't truly believe in work-life balance, right? Because when you talk about work-life balance, what you imagine is a seesaw. On one end is work, on one end is life, right? And life is just anything that's not work, right?
Yep.
And so how do you balance a seesaw? Well, you put a pound on one side. What do you got to do to the other side?
Yep.
Got to put a pound on it. Put 2 on this side, 2 on this side, 3 on this side. You get to 100 on one side, 100 on the other, and what happens to the seesaw? It breaks, right? Instead, we ask ourselves, how do we integrate all of these things into just the coherent narrative, which is my life, right? The middle of the fulcrum, the place where it all comes together. And so to me, a purpose in leadership is really, do you have a purpose in the life that you're trying to live? And if you have a purpose in the life that you're trying to live, your leadership, your job, your vocation is simply one of the platforms by which you express that. Similarly to the way that you express it in your home, and the way you express it in your community, and the way that you express it in the work that you do. And I find that when you try too hard to be a leader this way, and then a father this way, and then a church member this way, or a friend this way, then A, you're spreading yourself too thin, and B, you have to pretend to be something different. Like if all of those are different roles, then something about them is different, and at some point you have to be inauthentic to that role, because you're either authentic in your friends and not in your work, or with your work but not in your family, and so you just have to pretend to be something you're not. And so I think purpose and leadership is really more a matter of, do you have a purpose in your life, and can you live authentically in that life, and then you can express that through your leadership.
That makes sense. It's funny. A friend of mine and I were talking, this is a while back, and he made the comment, he goes, as business owners, and this doesn't necessarily apply to business owners necessarily. There's so many other places you can put this. But he says there is no such thing as work-life balance. He goes, there's work-life blend. He's like, did I work till 9 p.m. last night? Yes. He goes, did I take 2.5 hours to have lunch with my granddaughter? Also, yes. And he goes, so he goes, is it balanced? No. He goes, is it blended, and is it fluid? And there's someone else that I work with, and her and I have been talking about this, and she's like, she goes, my husband sometimes get on my case. Like, I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning working on something. And he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm working. And he's like, why? And she's like, oh, I really wanted to get this done. And he's like, but what do you mean? And so many people don't have that blend, and they aren't in that right spot. She's like, no, I'm excited to do this. She's like, I'm enjoying this. And at which point he looks at her like, what? Are you crazy? You could be sleeping. But she's like, no, I'm actually enjoying doing this. I had the same thing. There was 3 of us business owners talking at one point in time, and the one, she made the comment, she goes, she looked at 2 of us, she goes, you 2 need to take a vacation. And I'm like, I'm kind of good. She goes, you 2 work way too much. The other one, she's a chocolatier, and she goes, I love this. She goes, I look forward to going into the shop every day. She goes, I'm at the shop till 7, 8 o'clock at night because I want to be there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. So that's now, granted, that's a little obsessive when that's the only thing that exists. But in the same sense, there's a blend there, and that it makes sense. And some of us have a strong enough purpose in one area that it's nice to have someone like you to be like, hey, make sure that that purpose also can fan
Yeah.
out into
Yeah.
don't be one dimensional.
Yeah.
Because we see it. I heard it on something else earlier today too, where they're like, look, so many people just pour everything into one bucket. And if that bucket develops a hole, well, your mindset, your life, everything I don't want to say is kind of screwed, but it's a lot tougher if like your stock portfolio, if you've diversified a little bit and poured stuff into multiple buckets, you're a lot better off. The question that I have with that, once again, we're segueing well here.
Hey.
How do you build a fulfilling life without losing the edge? Meaning, like, hey, I love what I do. I think I'm pretty good at it. I spend a lot of hours doing it, and I believe that's part of the reason why I'm good at it. How do I have a fulfilling life that is more than just sitting here talking with you?
What more do you need?
This is very fulfilling. This is very fulfilling.
Yeah. No. That's because that's one of the things when I talk about fulfillment and doing meaningful work. One of the first things high achievers think is oh God, so I have to like give up and like be satisfied and blah blah blah. And first of all, like satisfied. That's the word. Like that's the word you're worried about, right? You're
Yep,
going to be
be happy for
satisfied.
once.
Like it's okay to be satisfied and strive in the same day, right? Like, and so,
Are you
so I absolutely no, not at all. So I am, yeah. When I hear, somebody ask me something along the lines of like, I don't remember exactly how you worded it, but this idea of how can I be fulfilled and still achieve at a high level, right? My question is how can you achieve at a high level if you're not fulfilled? How can you continue to want to work day in and day out for the thing that you love or the thing that you're working on if you don't love it, right? So I'm in the world of entrepreneurship quite a bit at Purdue, and I mentor and advise companies. And one of the first things I'm looking at is not the widget. It's not the app. It's not the software. It's the person who's selling it to me. And I'm asking questions like how many hours of sleep do you get a night? How many, what do you do for your physical wellness, right? What does your mental health look like, right? Maybe not asking that directly, but I'm asking questions that are helping, right?
Here's the list of medication. No.
Yeah, I'm asking questions that are letting me know a couple things. One, how passionate are you about this? One of the things I ask is what got you into this, right? And if it's like, well, I heard AI was the new trend, so I wanted to dive into it and get the, right? It's like, you don't have any passion for this. But when I heard, when I grew up, I saw my father, who was an interventional cardiologist, save the life of a human, right? And I know that with the proper techniques and the proper technologies, AI can save every human, right? That gives me goosebumps. That's purpose. That's passion. And so there are people out there that are doing things for the money or for the wealth or whatever, and they're doing okay. The people who are truly doing it, right? You look at like the Richard Bransons of the world. I mean, he's chill. He's relaxed.
I know.
He's living his best life, and it's because he's stripped away all of the stuff that doesn't matter and just focuses on the things that do. And granted, he worked really, really hard to get to a place where he can do that. But one of the analogies I use for people is, a lot of people look at their life and they go, oh, it's a blank canvas that's ready to be painted on, right? Well, the more you add to the canvas, at some point it becomes just a brown, muddy mess of crap. Right?
Yeah.
You just can't keep.
You described a lot of my artwork.
You and me both, brother. So I look at more as, a block of marble, right? Like you start off as this block of marble, and your job in life is to chip away all the things that are unnecessary until you have the final piece of art, which is your life. And so it's not about adding more, it's about getting rid of the things that aren't serving you and just really hyper focusing on that. And to your point earlier about the person who stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning, I think that's phenomenal. My next question would be, what time does she sleep in till? Because if she's driven to want to do it, phenomenal. If she's getting 8 hours of sleep, phenomenal. People ask me all the time, they're like, I can't believe you get up at 4:35. It changes, right? My life changes. But I can't believe you get up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm like, I go to bed at 8. It's not that hard to get up early when you go to bed that early, right? But I know in myself, I'm not an evening person. I am dead to the world mentally at about what time is it? 3, 4, about now. And so I know I can't contribute to the world, right? You're gonna see me just at 4 o'clock on the dot. I can't contribute meaningfully at that time. So why would I? I can stay. Trust me, I can stay up and binge Netflix like the best of them. It's not like that is not something that isn't wired within me. I have the same desire for dopamine hits as any other human in the world, right? Pizza and beer, check. Yes, please, more. Right? But I know that I'm not going to contribute meaningfully in those periods of time, and most other people don't, right? But they work really hard all day, they burn themselves out, and so they reward themselves in the evening with a couple glasses of wine and some food, and then they're going to scroll on the internet for a little while, and then they wonder why they're just destroyed in the morning in terms of, I don't want to get up in the morning, right? And they don't have a good set of routines. Like the thing that actually gets me up in the morning is that my alarm is 10 steps away from my bed, and if I don't shut it off, my wife's going to hit me, right? And then I have
physical violence.
Yeah, exactly. She is the nicest human in the world. She would never do that. But then I have the next step, which is going and starting the hot water for the coffee. Then I have the next step, which is the unmentionables we won't say on air. And then I have the next step, which is the journaling. Then I have the next step, which is reading 10 pages. And then I have the next step, which is going out for my run. And then by the time I even know what the heck I'm doing, that ingrained habit of just next, it's an hour and a half away. The hormones that were in my body that cause sleep take 90 minutes to leave your body. They're gone. And now I've started my day in a positive way. And it doesn't matter what your routine is, but you have to have something that keeps you. Because trust me, when I don't have that routine, when I don't have that creative work I want to do in the morning, I hit that alarm and then I turn back and I can go to bed. I have that same option like everybody else. But I think it's recognizing what is driving you in the morning, having that purpose, and being able to get up and want to do that. That is what makes somebody such a high achiever, and it's what makes people want to stay up till 3 at night. And as long as it's not detrimenting you, a lot of people do it for the wrong reasons. They're doing it because they're trying to fill a hole. They're doing it because they're trying to make more money. They're doing it because they're avoiding their family because they don't feel like they're a good parent, but it's a lot easier to bury themselves in work and to justify it by saying, I'm contributing, right? No judgment. I've been there. But those are the things they're hiding from, and they bury it in I'm going to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning because that's where I get my sense of worth. And that ties back into that part of identity. When you bury your identity into one framework, I am a hard worker, but all that means to you is I work many hours at the job, then your identity is completely steeped in that. And then what happens when you get fired for whatever reason? COVID or layoffs or insert whatever here, right?
Yep.
Then all of a sudden your identity is crashed. There's a reason suicide rates are so high in professional athletes who get injured, because they lose their identity like that and they have no coping mechanisms, no social support to be able to overcome that. And so it's the same thing in your world. How do you make sure that you don't put all your eggs into that basket? You don't identify so strongly with your job. I am a coach. I am a business owner, and instead recognize that purpose is influential in all the different areas of your life. I'm a father and a husband and a coach and an athlete and a teacher and a mentor. I'm all of those things, and my purpose just benefits those in so many different ways.
It's funny. I love how you said your morning routine and getting up early. I'm one of those people that they say and everyone says they're this. It's like, you know how they say, if you ask, 80% of people say they're an above average driver.
Mm,
It's the same type of thing. I like 5.5 to 6.5 hours of sleep is ideal for me.
mm,
I get up it's usually between 3:45 and 4:30 in the morning without an alarm. I'm typically in bed 9:30, 9:45 ish, lights out. I mean, out at 10 o'clock. I
yeah,
mean, I'm done out at 10 o'clock. I am sleeping.
yeah,
The no alarm, I just wake up. I wake up. I'm excited. People are like, how do you lift in the morning? To me, first off, if I do it in the morning, that's the only way that I know I'm going to do it and I'm going to get it done.
correct.
After 10 years, I look forward to it. I look forward to doing something very, very difficult in the morning. If I don't do that, I'm a little bit weird for the entire day.
Sure.
The other thing, and I love how you put like you're a morning person. That's when you do the stuff. I'm very much the same way. I have found that like between 11 and 2, I am completely useless. 3 o'clock, I start to get a second wind. 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock. Oh, I am ready to go. Like 7:30. I'm like, I can be on the computer and I can be doing something, but I notice the quality of what I'm doing is going down. The effectiveness of what I'm doing is going down. There have been times where I'm like, look, I just need to power through and get this done. There's a deadline tomorrow morning. This just needs to happen.
Sure.
But I realize most nights at like 7:30, I'm like, it's just time to shut down
Yeah.
because I am not doing the quality of work. I'm not as effective. So let's make sure that we're filling other buckets at the same time. It's
Correct.
reassuring to hear that because
Correct.
that's
100%.
yeah.
Yeah.
Find the other spots.
That I couldn't agree more. So some of my clients I work with, I do a energy slash creativity audit, depending on who they are and what they want to focus on. Right. Some people they want to be more creative and do more writing or whatever. So it's kind of a creativity, but creativity and energy are really kind of go hand in hand because you're more creative when you have more mental energy and clarity. That's just kind of what creativity is. It's your ability to come up with new and novel ideas beyond just the regular routine of what you normally do. And so a couple nuances there that I think are really important to understand. One, there are people in this world who can go off of less than 8 hours of sleep.
Sure.
There's no question about it. You might be one of them. You know, the biggest thing, it's typically, I don't know the exact stat, so let's say it's like 5% of the population. It's a very
It's
small
low.
amount, very small amount. The biggest thing is recognizing like is being truthful to that amount of energy that you have. So for you, like you've done this time in, time out, you can get up in the morning and you can still function at a very high level without the need for an alarm or caffeine or any of those other things. And it's not detrimenting your performance in terms of your creativity, your physical health, all of those things. Then you have certifiable fact that you are that person. What rubs me the wrong way is it's actually that I feel bad for them is the people that are like, oh, I'm just fine on 5 hours of sleep, right? And their cortisol levels are off the chart. They have heart issues. They are metabolically unhealthy. Like physically, they are unhealthy. And they're constantly, by the way, I drink a lot of coffee, but they constantly are utilizing things like caffeine to give themselves the energy that they need. The truth is, they just don't know what healthy sleep looks like.
Yep.
So yes, you can be awake on 5 hours of sleep, right? You can be awake on a lot of things, but for the most part, they actually did studies with this with military people because they have to do what their superiors tell them, right? But they basically, and this was a long time ago, I don't even know if this would be legal anymore, but they basically put these individuals in a non-sensory space, right? It was a bunker.
Yep.
No lights, no sense of time, nothing. No idea of when it was, what it was, completely pitch dark, no activities, no ability to read books or anything, right? And for the first few days, they slept crazy amounts, right? Like 12 hours, 14 hours, whatever. But then at a certain point, their body stopped doing that. And no matter how bored they got, they could only sleep for about 8 hours.
Yep.
And so they found that 8 hours is just really truly the place to do it. And then there's tons of studies on sleep. I'm not going to go through all of them about just how it detriments us on so many levels. I mean, to the point where if you're sleep deprived, it is the same as driving drunk.
Yep.
But you just can't get arrested for it because there's no proof that you are intoxicated. But like it's bad. And so the challenge I have for those individuals is not one of like, I told you so. It's more of like, I wonder what you could do with your life if you respected it enough to give yourself the sleep that you want. Because we as a society are so, I love naps. Oh, so much. And we're just so against the idea of sleep and rest. It's like weakness. It's this idea of rest and relaxing and pulling back is somehow deleterious to your success. And it's just truly not the case. So I think that's a huge factor, is just recognizing if it's true or not. And then the other piece is the people who say that they're night people. Again, I'm a morning person. I'm biased to mornings. I agree with you. Get the things done that you want to get done throughout the day before everything else takes up your space. Because at the end of the day, decision fatigue and stress just wear you out. Like you just know in the morning you're going to have the energy and the time. But I'm not suggesting people exercise in the morning. I think you should exercise when it's good for you. When people say that they're night owls, and it's because they prefer to be at night. Like my cousin, my nephew, when he was growing up in high school, he loved to sleep in until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then hide out in his room and then play video games till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Why? Because nobody gave him chores from 5 p.m. until 3 o'clock in the morning. Right? So I think a lot of people like nighttime because there's less expectation. Less noise, less I have to get stuff done. It's quiet, right? And so you can afford to do things like binge watch Netflix or any of those things.
Yep.
Again, no judgment, but to me, being a night person or a morning person is really about what time and what period of the day am I most successful? Am I most productive? In whatever way that looks like for them. Success is not my. Right. I can't define what success is for you. If it's painting, if it's doing accounting, whatever it is. But like, it's when you are at your peak that really truly matters. And so all I implore people is do some reflection, do some introspection of when do I have the most energy? When am I the most creative? When am I the most productive? And when I'm not, to your point, when I'm not creative, when I'm out of my creative tasks, I hang up stuff in the house. I rearrange my podcast studio here. I'm doing the physical things that don't take a lot of mental energy because I just know that that's going to be the most productive use of my time. It doesn't mean I do nothing. It just means that the things that I do are different.
Speaking of sleep and nap, it's now 4 o'clock.
Yeah, I gotta go.
Which should be, I mean, it's nap time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Dude, I thank you for this. We're gonna have a lot of clips with this. To me, we're obviously gonna go back. We're gonna review. This is gonna be a lot of fun. So I'm gonna hit stop on this, and we know we're gonna hang out for 10 seconds while it uploads. Where did my mouse cursor go? For anyone that may happen to see this online, thank you for tuning in.
Hey, make it a great day.
Exactly, and thank you. Cool. So it's stopping. It's stopping the live. So